Hello Leo, my name is Keith Haswell and I'm a professional astrologer with 40 years experience in the business and also 40 years experience in teaching astrology and meditation and reincarnation and related subjects. I've got over 30,000 clients worldwide and more than 10,000 students worldwide as well, so it's nice to have this opportunity to be able to talk with you, Leo. You are to be congratulated, Leo, not because you're a Leo, but because you believe in astrology. Because you're interested in astrology, that puts you on the crest of the wave of evolution, Leo. What that means that you are in the forefront of the evolution of consciousness in the human world. And the reason why I say that is because the new dispensation that's coming now into the mind of man is astrology, meditation and reincarnation. Not that it's a new world religion, but the fact is it's the truth. And therefore truth can never be denied. It's been denied for the last 2,000 years because the religions of the world met in the year 400 AD and decided that they would block out any reference in the Bibles of the world to astrology and reincarnation because they figured that if people only believed they had one life and therefore they could go to heaven for eternity or go to hell for eternity as a result of what they did in that one life, they'd have better control over them. Anyway, you just sit back and relax now, Leo. And what I'm going to do for you on this particular video is I'm going to tell you, first of all, a few things about yourself. That's always a lot of fun. A few things about your personality and what type of conditions and events that you'll experience in life on a lifetime basis, and what qualities, principles and values that you're working on and so forth. And then I'm going to tell you where the planets are at the 1st of September and on a timeline where they move to in different houses of your horoscope. So it'll be on a timeline on a week-by-week basis throughout the months of September and October 2014. So you'll get an idea of the type of astrological influences that you'll be experiencing from these movements in September and October. And then I'm going to look also at the slower moving bodies, Jupiter, which takes a year to go through a particular house of your horoscope. I'll tell you the sort of influences that you'll be experiencing in September and October from the movement of Jupiter. And also Saturn. Saturn takes 2.5 years to transit through a particular house of your horoscope, Leo. And I'll tell you where Saturn is sitting in your horoscope during the months of September and October and what sort of impact that's going to have upon you. Now, first of all, a few things about yourself though. Now, you being a Leo are very, very conscious, very much aware, awake and alive. It's the sign of self-consciousness, Leo. So you've asked yourself many times, why am I so awake, aware and alive as to what's going on around me when everybody else seems to be half asleep? So you're very much aware and very much conscious. You're a proud person, you're a fire sign, so you're very enthusiastic, you've got a lot of energy to put into your desires and so forth, and you like to be the centre of attention in conversation and communication. You're a good organiser, you're a little bit stubborn at times, and as far as money is concerned, you're very meticulous with the expenditure of money. You like to keep detailed records of everything that goes out and everything that comes in. So you're very fussy and particular about keeping proper records as far as your money is concerned, and very meticulous there. And as far as the things that appeal to you, the things of the earth, the plants, shrubs, the beauties of nature, flowers and so forth all appeal to you. and contribute to your sense of security. You also love rich food, and you like nice food, you like cooking. Now you have a lot of social activities revolving around relatives and neighbours. You could even marry somebody who you met through your neighbourhood or through a relative. Now there's a lot of interest in music, especially whilst you're driving. You like to have harmony while you're driving, and that comes from listening to music while you're driving. And you do like to have walks around among the general public as well. So you like to go out to shopping malls and busy thoroughfares and so forth where there's plenty of people there. So you like the general public. Now you live near the water at some time in your life, Leo, and there's some degree of mystery surrounding your parents. So it's either something there that's happened in between your parents, or there's something there that's family secrets that are to do with parents, or there's family secrets there to do with the family. Could be to do with the sexual side of life, but there's certainly some sort of intrigue there connected with the family tree or the family history or whatever. Now you could live near a cemetery at some time in your life, and you're certainly attracted towards mysterious paintings and so forth to have on the wall, and statuettes and knickknacks. Anything that's out of the ordinary is naturally appealing to you. Now you have children who perhaps live distantly from you at some time, so they could travel and move into a different state, or they could travel and move overseas or something like that at some time. And you get involved in a romantic attachment early in the piece with someone who was born overseas or distantly from the place of your birth. Now you love sports. You love sports, Leo, and you like being a spectator in sports, and earlier in life perhaps a participant in sports. So you do like a lot of involvement there, and you love horse racing as well. You may even have shares in a horse or something like that at some time in your life. Now you love the idea of travel for the purposes of the expansion of your consciousness. You like to visit and travel other civilizations and cultures so that you get an idea of what's going on in their civilizations and worlds. Now you have a government job at some time in your life, or you could gravitate towards positions of responsibility or authority in the job. You're a born leader, but you do have frustrations there in the job. And there's difficulties with people that you work with. Sometimes you feel as if you're not understood, or because you're in a position of authority, you have problems with the people that you have to direct and administer and so forth. There's some frustrations with regard to health, and a sense of limitation upon you as far as your diet is concerned. You're not able to eat certain foods, and you've got frustrations there because of that. And you can experience some difficulties with the bowel and the digestive system as well. Now, you do get involved in a relationship with a partner or a spouse who comes from a different nationality or a different culture or a different social scale. You probably would live together with that person prior to getting married, and there's something unique there about your spouse, something that makes them very different and an unusual sort of a character, and you're attracted towards that, Leo. Now you do have a lot of secret worries about joint finances, and there's quite a few fantasies that you tend to be enamored with, focusing through the sexual side of your nature. So that'll do as far as the description of your personality, and look at some of the lifetime conditions and events in your life, Leo. Now what I'm going to do is to lay things out on a timeline for you with these faster moving bodies, the Sun, Mercury, Venus and Mars, and we'll look at them first. Now you've got to understand that in astrology we're not giving definites and this is must happen and will happen and so on and so forth. What we're doing is we're portraying for you a range of events that can happen at this particular time in your life, and perhaps one or two of those type of events will happen, or maybe something similar will happen. So you've got to look for similarities too to the conditions that I portray, Leo. Now on the 1st of September, Leo, you've got the Sun in the second house of your horoscope and Mercury in the second house of your horoscope. What that means is that your mind is focused upon financial matters and matters relating to your sense of security in life and your security needs. So there'll be some major purchase perhaps in the early part of the month. And Venus is in the first house of your horoscope, so you're very outgoing in your affections to start the month off with, and you're enjoying the social side of your life, you're loving music, and it's a good time for you to engage in romantic involvements if you're in the market for a relationship. And there's you're just more affectionate and more sociable and a happier type of a person when Venus is in the first house of your horoscope, and that is a good time to commence or start new projects and ideas. Mars starts the month off in the fourth house of your horoscope, Leo. And what that means, Leo, is that there's a potential for accidents in the home, tensions through parents, tensions involving family members, conflicts in the home, danger of fire and boiling water in the home. So there could be some stresses focusing through parents, maybe an illness or an accident involving a parent or something like that when Mars is in the fourth house of your horoscope. But there's generally a sense of tension there in the home somehow. So try to relax and try not to be dominant and so forth in the home environment. And now on the third, the first change that we have is on the 3rd of September, Leo, and Mercury moves into the third house of your horoscope. Now when Mercury is in the third house of your horoscope, there's a lot more communication. You'll be using your hands quite a lot in conversation and communication to put your points across, and you'll be more communicative with relatives and neighbours during that time. There's potential for contracts or agreements to be entered into, could be tied in with motor vehicles or means of transportation. Venus moves into the second house of your horoscope on the 6th of September, Leo. Now, when Venus is in the second house of your horoscope, it's a very good time for you financially. But you'll want to be getting out there and spending, that's for sure. So there'll be some major purchase, perhaps. There'll be good fortune for you with money. It's lucky for you with money. And there's a love of rich food, too, when Venus is in the second house of your horoscope. So you've got to watch out for that rich food that can put on the pounds. Now on the 14th of September, Leo, you've got Mars moves into the 5th house of your horoscope. The 5th house of your horoscope is the house of children, so there can be stresses and tensions involving children, accidents or illness involving children. There's potential for impulsive romance, love matters can come to the fore if you're in the market for a relationship. When Mars is in the 5th house of your horoscope, you'll have a tendency to be impulsive with gambling and things like that. It's not a good time for you on the social side of life because you can be argumentative there in restaurants and places of amusement, or you can experience conflicts and tensions with those that you're with. You'll probably be attracted towards aggressive sports like football and things like that. And there's also a tendency for you to be a little bit argumentative and so forth with the children during that particular time. Now on the 24th of September, Leo, the Sun moves into the 3rd house of your horoscope. And when the Sun is in the 3rd house of your horoscope and it remains there for 30 days, there's going to be a focus more upon the social side of life involving relatives and neighbours. And there's going to be a focus upon the motor vehicles and means of transportation. You can enter an important contract or an agreement when the Sun is in the 3rd house of your horoscope, but certainly there'll be a lot more involvements with relatives and neighbours on the social levels. On the 28th of September, Leo, Mercury moves into the 4th house of your horoscope. Now, when Mercury is in the 4th house of your horoscope, there can be contracts and agreements that revolve around family matters, more communication with family members, especially with parents, if they're alive. And with Mercury in the 4th house of your horoscope, there's going to be a desire for reading around the home, and there can be contracts and agreements that could be entered into to do with property matters when Mercury is in the 4th house. Now, on the 30th of September, the last day of the month, Venus moves into the 3rd house of your horoscope, Leo. And when Venus is in the 3rd house of your horoscope, it's a very active time for you socially with relatives and with neighbours. And there's a love of driving and listening to music in the car, so that'll be an urge that you'll have. Mercury goes retrograde on the 5th of October. Now, what retrograde means, Leo, is planets don't actually go backwards, but what they do is they go backwards in the apparent motion in reference to the Earth's movement and that planet's movement. In other words, the Earth is moving faster at that particular point around the Sun than what Mercury is, and so therefore Mercury appears to be going into a backward motion, and that's called retrograde. Now, it stays as a retrograde motion from the 5th of October to the 26th of October. Now, during these 21 days, because Mercury is retrograde, it will give you a tendency to dwell in the past, but it also will impact upon other houses of your horoscope than the house that it's sitting in. Now, it means that it's going to impact upon your finances negatively, and it will also impact negatively upon friends and group activities. So group activities, plans for going out with groups and friends and so forth, will be obstructed or delayed or go awry in some way with Mercury retrograde there. Now, the next one that we have is the 24th of October. The Sun moves into the 4th house of your horoscope, Leo. When the Sun is in the 4th house of your horoscope, there's a lot more social involvements with family, and there's a lot more focus upon family matters, domestic matters, and property matters generally. You'll be wanting to entertain in the home, because Venus is also there in the 4th house of your horoscope on the 24th of October as well. And when Venus is in the 4th house, there's a strong attraction socially to parents and to family members. So you'll be wanting to entertain a lot in the home, and you'll be inviting friends into the home and so forth, rather than going out to clubs and group activities outside. Now, on the 26th of October, Mercury goes direct. I've already told you that. On the 27th of October, which is the last one that we come to, Mars moves into the 6th house of your horoscope. Now, when Mars goes into the 6th house of your horoscope, it's not a good time for you health-wise. You can get fevers and things like that, colds and fevers, and you can have accidents on the job especially, and tensions and conflicts, Leo, with people that you work with. There can be accidents involving domestic pets, so you could get bitten by a dog or scratched by a cat or something like that, or there could be illness involving a domestic pet. There can be stresses and tensions connected with the job through people being assertive and dominant in their nature in the job, so try not to pick a fight with people in the job during that time. Now we're going to look at Jupiter for you, Leo, and Jupiter at the beginning of the month is in the 1st house of your horoscope. Now, this only happens once every 12 years, Jupiter going into the 1st house of your horoscope. It went there before the 1st of September, but it's there during this period from the 1st of September to the end of October, okay? Now with Jupiter in the first house of your horoscope, it's a very, very good time for you for commencing and starting new projects and ideas. You'll be lucky, you'll be blessed in so many ways to do with your personal self-initiated efforts, Leo. And it's a very good time for you generally to do with your own personal safety. So you'll be very magnanimous and outgoing in your affections during that time, but you'll also have a tremendous urge to expand your understanding about the nature of reality and your place in that reality. Now there's something else happens with Jupiter, because Jupiter moves 10 degrees just in that 2 months. And it moves 10 degrees between 10 degrees Leo to 20 degrees Leo. Now, the thing is, Leo, is that if you have any planets in those 10 degrees section of your horoscope, 10 degrees Leo to 20 degrees Leo, it means that Jupiter forms a conjunction with those planets in that 2-month period. Now you want to know about that, because that's a time to take advantage of things to do with other houses of your horoscope. Now what I'm prepared to do for you, if you submit your birth details through the Your Horoscope page of my website, www.mysteryofsirius.com, then I'll tell you whether you've got any planets in that 10 degree section of your horoscope and what impact that will have upon events and conditions to do with other segments of your horoscope other than the one that Jupiter is sitting in, which is the first house. So I'll do that for you without any charge, just by you submitting your birth details through the Your Horoscope page of my website. I'll send you your chart as well, and I'll go into that a little bit more later. Now, then we go to Saturn. Now, Saturn is sitting in the 4th house of your horoscope. It's been there, Leo, for the last 12 months. So you've already felt the impact of this one. And when Saturn is in the 4th house of your horoscope, there can be illness or death or unhappiness of a parent. So that may have happened in the last 12 months or could happen in the next 18 months. Now, when Saturn is in the 4th house of your horoscope too, it's not a good time for buying and selling property. It's not a good time for changes of residence. There can be unhappiness focusing through family members. So a family member could get sick, someone who lives with you, could be a child, could be a spouse, or somebody who lives with you. And there's frustrations with things coming to a conclusion too. So things that you're waiting to come to a conclusion, when Saturn is in the 4th house, they get drawn out and obstructed and so forth. Now, Saturn moves between 18 degrees Scorpio and 23 degrees Scorpio. So a movement of 5 degrees there in that 2-month period from the 1st of September to the end of October. With Saturn moving 5 degrees in your horoscope there, it can form a conjunction with any planets that are in that particular segment of your horoscope. So once again, I'll tell you whether you've got any conjunctions there with planets in your particular horoscope at that time, because you want to know about that. And you want to know about that because when Saturn forms a conjunction with any planets in your horoscope, it's a time of caution. It's a time of problems, difficulties, frustrations, obstructions, and to be forewarned, Leo, is to be forearmed. So therefore I offer the opportunity for you to submit your birth details for another reason, and that is to know when Saturn's going to be fouling up things in your life. And that completes my task for you as far as the movement of those planets through the houses of your horoscope during this 2-month period of September and October, Leo. Well, where do you go from here? Well, just a little bit of a wrap-up of the message that I want to communicate to you. I want to help you, Leo, to develop spiritual perception. Now, what does that mean, you ask yourself? What that means is to be able to perceive life, Leo, from a spiritual perspective. Now I say to you, and I posit the suggestion, that how can you possibly see life from any other perspective? Science says that the planets can have no impact whatsoever upon your personality because they're just blobs of matter that are out there in space, and they can have no impact upon your personality, and they can have no impact upon the timing of conditions and events in your life. Now, if you found any truth whatsoever in the things that I've told you about yourself here today, and the timing of events and conditions that I've portrayed for you here today, then it's incumbent upon you to research that much more. And so that means that you start to then perceive and want to research and investigate what is going on here. This means that there's intelligence behind the whole scheme of things, and that the planets are not just blobs of matter as science says, but that they are the hands of some sort of a cosmic clock. And I put this idea to science. Science says that we've all just evolved from the amoeba in the ocean through the plant kingdom and the animal kingdom and into the human kingdom and so forth to become the intelligent, brilliant, wonderful and august beings that we are now. I can give you a little bit of a pat on the back. You are very intelligent. You are on the crest of the wave of evolution, Leo, because you're interested in things like astrology. This is the new dispensation that's coming. But if we've all just evolved through this process of evolution as science posits, what is the purpose, evolutionary speaking, of our fingerprints all being different and unique? And what's the evolutionary benefit of each of our irises being unique and different to the point where you can be identified by your iris? What's the point of that? What's the point of that? It points towards the fact that there's design in the universe, and each of us are unique creations of God, Goddess, all that is. And that science cannot create one thing, Leo, that is alive. They can clone things, they can clone animals and so forth, but only from eggs that are there that have got life in them. But they can't create even one petal of a flower, let alone the whole flower. You see, there's life there in everything that exists in the universe. And they can't create one thing that's alive. But yet they want to put all of this life thing down and just say, well, that all just happened because of explosions of this and explosions of that in space. So I'm saying to you that there's intelligence behind the whole scheme of things, that you are a unique individual, that there won't be another person born with the same horoscope as you for another 25,000 years. You are quite a unique individual, Leo. And what I'm prepared to do for you to help you to understand yourself more, I'm prepared to do what's called horoscope number 2 for you for only $10, and that tells you where all of your other planets are. Now you're Leo because you've got the sun in Leo, or because you've got your rising sign in Leo. But you also have the moon in your horoscope, which rules your emotions, and Mercury, which rules your mind, Venus, which rules your love nature, Mars rules your energy levels, Jupiter your higher mind, Saturn your practicality and organisational ability, Uranus your intuition, Neptune your spirituality, and Pluto your capacity to transform yourself. Now all of these planets, Leo, you want to know where all of these planets are, because the location of these planets by the sign that they sit in, house that they sit in, and relationship that they form with each other, called aspects, that determines how evolved you are from past lifetimes. Don't you want to know that? Don't you want to know how evolved you are? Don't you want to know what tests that you've set for yourself in this particular lifetime? You've lived hundreds of lifetimes, Leo, to get where you are today. Don't you want to know how well you've done in those past hundreds of lifetimes to get where you are today? Don't you want to know what tests that you've set for yourself in this lifetime? Well, by getting your horoscope number 2 done by me, it's only $10, and it's a beautiful 20-page printout that I send to you describing your personality in depth, the location of all of these planets by sign, aspect and house, and what that means in your life and what qualities, principles and values that you're in the process of developing, Leo, in this particular lifetime. I'm prepared to do that for you and send that to you together with 12 CDs out of my first book, What Really Matters. And that's a book on astrology, meditation and reincarnation, where using my voice with beautiful backing music, I take you in and out of meditation time and time again. And these 12 CDs are sent to you when you apply for horoscope number 1, which is free of charge. So I send you your horoscope chart telling you where all of your planets are. I tell you where those impacts are as far as Jupiter and Saturn is concerned. I tell you about yourself, and I also give you 12 CDs out of my first book, What Really Matters, on astrology, meditation and reincarnation to help you to become more of the giant that you truly are. And I send you the link for all of the 120 or 133 now of my videos so that you can watch them and learn more about all different aspects of personal and spiritual growth. And I do that, all of that for you free of charge. Or you can get your horoscope number 2 done by me to learn more about yourself and what makes you tick and what qualities, principles and values that you've developed in past lives to get where you are today. So that just about completes what I have to say to you, except to say that God and Goddess love you and know your name. And they want you to become all that you can be, Leo, and more. So it's time now to submit your birth details through your horoscope page of my website. And then if you go on further into my intensives, you can get the information that I have in intensives 2 and 3 from my second book, Coming Home, An Eternal Journey. We never get home, Leo, we're always coming home. It's an eternal journey, ever becoming more of who we really are. And then after a period of time, at a level of relative perfection, which none of us have attained because we're still here, we're the laggards. But beyond the human level altogether, there's other levels of consciousness that we can evolve into. Don't you want to know about all of this? This will be common knowledge in another 500 years or 100 years or whatever. This will be common knowledge and taught in all of the universities of the world. So, don't you want to know that now? You're a pioneer. Anyway, I've spoken enough here. It's nice to have this opportunity to talk with you. I thank you for your attentiveness and I look forward to working further with you should you decide to go further. Thank you.